there is a tweet that comes out and a story that comes out sharing the breakdown of a letter that a whistleblower from ABC writes. Go all the way to the bottom, and then we'll read the email.
Affidavit,
So, yeah,
PBD.
so-
he's for if he gets in trouble, it's perjury, jail for a long time.
Okay, so affidavit. So click on this, Rob, from the first one. I want to read the whole thing. Yeah. Click on the first picture, Rob. Right there. Zoom out a little bit. Okay. So here we go. Yeah, zoom in a little bit more for that so I can read it. My name is XYZ. I reside in such and such New York. I've worked for ABC for over 10 years in various technical and administrative positions. Since the acquisition of ABC in 1996, I've observed significant transformation in the nature of the news reporting at the organization. These changes suggest... how would he know since 96 if he's only worked there for 10 years? These changes suggest a shift from unbiased reporting, a model of influence by external factors. For the record, I do not endorse Trump in his capacity as candidate for Trump. The intent of his affidavit is to address concerns regarding perceived biases within the news reporting within my employer's debate that will be hosted on September 10th, 2024. Okay, go to the next one, number 2. Observations of the debate communication. Since the debate of President Trump was announced a broadcast on ABC, various members of the staff have expressed hope of a debate where issues that were important to everyday Americans will be discussed, and that there had been promises that the candidates will be held firm to discussions regarding their proposed policy stances, and that the debate would not deteriorate into an ad campaign, whereas both candidates would simply make blanket statements without specific policy or explanation as to, political position clarification. Many employees at ABC who were looking for fair and honest debate questioned for the clear bias that is well known throughout the company. It is common knowledge that debate moderators, as well as chief executive officer of my employer, are well known not to support Trump. This led to several employees speaking up in regards to how to make a fair debate fair. We were given assurances that the debate would be fair, and neither the Harris nor the Trump campaign would have an unfair advantage. Concerns regarding journalistic integrity. It is my belief that contemporary news organizations, including ABC, no longer adhere to impartiality. The influence of commercial interests and substantial donors appear to affect news presentations, resulting in reporting. I personally witnessed news stories being cut from programming and not reported at all due to influence of certain corporations linked to our parent company, XYZ.
The Walt Disney Company is what that says.
Observations pertaining to debate fairness. I have noted specific instances related to the debate between Trump and Kamala that raise concerns, and procedural fairness. The specific instances of perceived bias are as follows. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Zoom in a little bit. Rob, the Harris administration received particular accommodations, including but not limited to providing of a podium significantly smaller than the one of Trump, and assurances regarding split-screen television views that would favorably impact Kamala Harris's appearance relative to Donald Trump. It was agreed that Trump would be subjected to fact-checking during the debate, while Kamala Harris would not face comparable scrutiny. This was widely known throughout the company that Donald Trump would be fact-checked. In fact, various people were assigned to fact-check observations it was perceived candidate Trump would make during the debate. In fact, Harris' campaign required assurances that Donald Trump would be fact-checked. This was done via multiple communications with the Harris campaign, whereas the Trump campaign was not included in negotiations. To my understanding, any rule negotiations and conversations pertaining to the debate should have had both Trump and Kamala Harris involved. The Harris campaign had numerous more calls regarding the debate rules, with the Trump campaign aware or on the call. Not aware. Okay, go to the next one, Rob. The Harris campaign was provided with sample questions, while not exact questions, covered similar topics that would appear during the debate. Okay, let's read the next part. Go all the way to the top. Here we go. Furthermore, the Harris campaign imposed restrictions. No questions regarding the perceived health of Joe Biden. No inquiries related to her tenure as Attorney General of San Francisco. No questions concerning her brother-in-law, Tony West, who faced allegations of embezzling billions of dollars in taxpayer funds, who may be involved in her administration if elected.
Whoa.
Tony West. So we got to go Google him afterwards. Internal organization climate. I have observed a pronounced bias against Trump within ABC News. Employees express favorable views towards him, experience significant concerns about the potential retribution. Okay, let's go to the next page, Rob. Purpose of documentation of affidavit. This affidavit is executed to document and provide transparency regarding the issues of fairness and impartiality in the debate process, and broader concerns about journalistic integrity at ABC News. And the last page, Rob, if we can go to it to see what he says. Next page. Zoom in, right? The affidavit has been signed and notarized on September 9th, So this is pre it taking place.
Of course.
To ensure that the allegations set forth formally documented prior to. In addition to notarizing this affidavit, I have sent a certified letter to myself, postmarked September 9th, which will remain unopened for any future investigations. Oh, this guy
Smart, Pat. That's so smart.
I have also dispatched a Federal Express package containing this affidavit on September 9th, delivered to my residence on the 10th, which will remain unopened for potential investigative purposes.
With all the FedEx tracking information.
Are you kidding me?
Gangster.
Furthermore, I have sent a certified letter to Speaker Mike Johnson on the night to establish a record that the correspondence was sent before the debate. Additionally, for further investigation, I have secretly recorded several conversations that will prove that the Harris campaign insisted upon not only fact-checking of Donald Trump, but also insisted on what questions were not to be asked under any circumstances, or else the Harris campaign would decline to participate in the debate. And go to the last page, Rob. Holy moly.
Like Pat cheating, right?
No question. I make these statements under the penalty of perjury and without coercion of any kind. New York, I being sworn here.
It's an affidavit saying I'll go to jail.
So let me see what Bill Ackman said. Go to the top. Bill Ackman, very successful businessman. I think he's worth $9 or $10 billion. Let's see what he writes an open letter to Bob Iger, right?
Love it.
Dear Bob, I assume that you have been made aware of this. By the way, Bob Iger's career started off with ABC 42 years ago, just so you know.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He started off with ABC, moved his way up, and then ABC bought Disney. Then he went and started working. So he knows ABC very well.
Gotcha.
Which was made public today, in which a whistleblower states that ABC worked closely with Kamala Harris campaign in sharing the substance of the questions, avoiding certain topics, et cetera, et cetera. I find the allegations credible, as written also because the affidavit was apparently made and filed the day before. Go to a lower one. While I can't determine the veracity of the allegations, they do match subsequently with what took place during the debate. Moderators have yet to respond to the allegations. Since they have not yet done so, one must draw negative inference in light of the seriousness of the allegations, the implications for this presidential election, and for ABC's reputation, and thereby Disney's and the office of CEO. I strongly encourage you to launch an immediate investigation of this matter. Our democracy demands on transparency, depends on... Wow.
And look what he did. And then, Rob, go to his last one 3 hours ago. PBD, he just go to Bill App and go a little bit lower, Robbie. He goes right there, Pat, right there.
Come to think of it, I am going to alert the SEC directly about Disney, ABC, and their misleading response to the whistleblower accusations about the presidential debate. Tom, how do you process all of this?
Very well and very poorly. I don't process it poorly. I process this very well, and it really reflects very poorly on the Walt Disney Company and ABC. First of all, what's interesting here is, do you remember the absolute buzzsaw she ran into with Tulsi Gabbard?
Yes.
What was Tulsi Gabbard talking about? Her record as Attorney General of California incarcerating mostly African-American men for minor drug charges and utilization of the guys that were in there on lesser charges as labor for the state. Remember, that's what Tulsi went after her. So if you look at this affidavit and then you read the part about, and anything regarding her being Attorney General, don't want to talk about that. Don't want to talk about Joe Biden, the health of Joe Biden, such as Vice President, you worked with Joe Biden. Were you aware of his deterioration? And what did you do about it as a leader in government to protect American people, to ensure that the president was capable? No questions about that. That was the question that she was not been able to ask, and she's been put into the group about that. So when I look at just those two things, those are such obvious questions. Why didn't they get asked? You know, David Muir could have put it any way. You know, people want someone tough on crime. There's a lot of crime in the United States now. You know, you as Attorney General have been open to certain criticism. That is a softball question. That's not like a TMZ below the belt question. That's very, very basic. So the fact that it wasn't in there, I find the affidavit credible, and the recordings is what I think is the shoe to drop. Because I also noted, I haven't seen the full response by David Muir, but David Muir was very careful in the video that I saw, where he said, all of this whining about the debate, who won, who lost, is a lot of noise. I'm moving on. Do you notice in that he doesn't deny any of this? He just says, oh, the noise about the debate and Trump whining about it. But that's the one clip I've seen. I haven't seen the rest or anything written of the response of ABC. But, you know, is ABC going to go out and deny any of this? And then the recordings come out. So I think ABC, if this is all true, is checkmated right now. The only thing they can do is, you know how politicians do the half answers? Answer something you want to answer, don't answer the real question. Mm-hmm. It says, how could you ask that? I've always cared about the American people and the economy when I'm asking about inflation. What did you do about inflation? Why did you do this? That's a ridiculous question. I care about the American people. You know how
of course
you answer that way, but this way, that's what I felt like ABC did. Oh, the noise is just gripes about who won. There's just gripes about it. There always is going to be gripes about the debate. We need to move on. But David Muir and everything I saw from that interview didn't come out and say, we didn't give her any topics. We didn't agree not to ask those questions. Oh, we forgot to ask those questions. And we didn't do any of this. That's not what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So, Pat, that's how I process it. I think they are checkmated. If they come out with a denial and then the whistleblowers releases recordings of executives actually saying these things, it makes it look double worse for ABC.
But Tom, let me ask you a question, though. But because this guy tried to assassinate Trump, you're not even hearing about this. This has been story hold, and this won't even, like, nobody cares about this anymore. And I know that she automatically was like, well, I want another debate. Well, obviously. And I mean, how clear was it, Tom? I know we felt it, but we couldn't really say it because we had no evidence. She was night and day a completely different person. We knew it.
Well, sure. And the news media is going to use any other story to shade the order of the stories and whether even cover it at all. Yeah. So that's going to happen. That's a given. Pat asked me what I thought about it.
Adam,
that's what I think.
Yeah, well, look, I remember we had Ari Fleischer on the podcast probably over a year ago. He was the former
press secretary,
exactly, for George W. Bush. He became famous right after 9/11, everything that he did there. And he basically talked about having a mixed media diet. Remember that term about, all right, cool, maybe if you're on the left, you're liberal, get a little more conservative outlets in there and basically mix it up. If you're more conservative, see what the left is saying. That way you sort of have a larger scope of what's going on out there. But there's a thing called the media bias chart. And Rob, I think it's the next one. Trust in media. Then there's the second thing I sent you. It's a media bias chart. And you could just see for yourself where certain channels or networks basically fall on the chart. You have that, Rob? So ABC, where do you think they are on the chart?
Of trustworthy?
So look, they're just biased. There's left, there's center there's center right, and there's right. ABC is first on the list of center left. So we know what game that they're already going to play. Look at the outlets that tend to be a little bit more central. Center, Reuters, Wall Street Journal, a lot of the sources that we pull from. On the right, obviously, you have the Foxes of the world, and on the far right, you have Newsmax, OAN. But on the far left, that's where you see the MSNBCs or the Huffington Post or the Daily Beast. We all understand. But don't get it twisted. ABC, they present themselves as being fair and balanced and independent. No, they're going to be center left, and they're going to basically do what they want to do to push their narrative. So I'm not shocked to hear any of this. I doubt we all are. Call it cheating, call it sort of helping a candidate, whatever component you want to put on it. But is anybody shocked to hear that ABC was sort of rooting for Kamala or helping Kamala?
This is not about being shocked. Yeah. This is very different than being shocked. Mm-hmm. This is an affidavit was written a day before, sent to Speaker Johnson, sent to himself, sent FedEx in every way to say, here's what's going to happen. And he ends up being right. Can you go to his brother-in-law, Rob? Who is Kamala Harris's brother-in-law?
Tony West.
And why is he being protected? What do they fear about him? So, by the way, let's find out who this guy is.
He's married to Kamala's sister.
Wait, Pat, is this the guy that was he was like an Uber? Was he big in the Uber company?
Yeah, he was the senior vice president and chief legal officer for Uber. Yeah. Uh-huh. He also was general counsel for PepsiCo and was the assistant attorney general of the civil division for the Department of Justice.
His wife is Maya Harris.
Go lower to see if the controversy on it.
So I looked. I couldn't find anything in a scandal regarding Billions. The only mention of Billions in his Wikipedia article is right here. West was involved in efforts by the Department of Justice to reclaim $37 billion from large financial institutions, but it doesn't say anything about a scandal involving him.
Huh.
then why would they fear?
Yeah, this guy mentioned that. Like the fact that they brought her brother-in-law, Tony West, faces allegations of embezzling billions of taxpayer funds who may be involved in her administration if elected. There's already articles about saying that they're going to tap him. I think that's the one, Robbie. Was that it? Embezzlement.
He was a former U.S. Attorney General under Barack Obama. Is who he was. Okay. West is married to Harris's sister, Maya, who he met in law school 35 years ago. After their wedding, he told the United Center, I also gained a sister I cherish, Kamala. As president, I'll know she'll fight for you, he concluded. This is his speech that he's giving. Interesting.
The New York Times, Pat, says he emerges as a close advisor to Kamala. The New York Times says he's going to be an advisor, even though he has... Dude, that's crazy that nobody's ever heard of him until ABC's like, make sure you don't bring him up, as if Trump would have brought him up. You know what I mean? Like they were doing research on this guy.
So how much credibility do you give this guy, Pat? Pretty high? The guy that basically wrote this affidavit?
I think, okay, let's see what he got right.
Yeah.
He said Trump's going to be fact-checked more than Kamala. Kamala was,
yes.
Yeah, that's fact. Okay, number 2 is the podium. Okay.
Yes, fact. We said that early.
Number 3. Did they ask any questions about Joe Biden's health?
No.
Okay. That's the third one, right?
They did.
Her record as Attorney General.
Her record as
not even asked about it.
Not brought up. That's 4, right? So if 4 is right, then Tony West, something has to be there. So I don't know. This guy seems like a guy that's if he wanted to speak and do an interview without showing his face, I mean, I want to see what that looks like.
What was Bill Ackman's involvement in this? I'm just
he just wrote an open letter to Bob Iger saying, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Basically saying,
did
you see this?
Yeah.
And hold him accountable.
That makes sense.
Are you aware of this? And then Bob Iger is either going to respond or not going to respond.
Now, Bob Iger's, that's one person to respond. What about any sort of congressional hearing or anything like this? Like, where does this go from here?
By the way,
he kind of called his shot.
Watch what happened here. She ends up doing she did an interview for ABC, a local ABC network. I don't know if you saw that when he asked her a question about the economy. Did you see this or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Rob, is this the one?
Yep.
Okay, so he's asking her about the economy. This is her answer about the economy. Tom,
was it 3-4 days after the debate? Just to put a timeline on this.
Yes, 3-4 days after the debate. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I'll start with this.
From the beginning, Rob, because people have to hear the question. Go from the beginning. Go ahead.
When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are 1 or 2 specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, construction workers and nurses and teachers. And I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, but a lot of people will relate to this. I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn.
I grew up in an apartment.
Look at that.
And I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity. And that
are you listening to this?
We as Americans have a
asking her
character.
Ideas on the economy, and she's like, I grew up
ambitions and aspirations
with people that like their lawns.
But not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that.
This is when you don't know the question.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, wait, watch.
So when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people, and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business.
Oh. By the way, that's what happens when you don't know the answers and you have been prepped and there's no cheating involved. That is her raw dog. That is her.
If only she had an advisor in her ear that just say, I'm going to work with the Fed to lower interest rates and help reduce the cost of living. And we're also going to work with an energy program.
That's it.
So that we can get if we're producing our own energy and we're not importing the oil, it'll get the cost of gas, travel, and diesel for trucks down, which would reduce the cost of things for the average American. That's how I answer the question. And even the most basic person could sit there and go, okay, well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, look, a lot of people say, listen, the reason I like Trump and the reason I want Trump in there is because he's a businessman and we need to run the country like a business. All right, there's a lot of truth to be said there. Now, you also have to understand that there's policy that needs to be understood and everything that happens with the Constitution. And maybe Trump is not exactly the number one candidate for that. But here you have Kamala, who, you talk about public-private partnerships. Has she literally ever had a job not in public service? She ever run a business? Has she ever had employees?
She worked at McDonald's.
Okay.
And she has guns.
McDonald's claims she didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because you worked at McDonald's doesn't mean that you understand
McDonald's said
how
no.
small businesses work. And just because she's cooking the fries doesn't mean that she's cutting the checks. So here's somebody who has apparently zero experience running any sort of business whatsoever. So do I want to have someone who is 100% business that maybe needs to learn some policy perspective, or someone who is 100% government and has no clue how businesses run, the economies run? The whole concept that she's looking out for small businesses is genuinely laughable to me. What in her track record has she ever done, ever, to help small businesses? And she's going to go basically, in 2008, when the mortgage crisis and mortgage-backed securities, I helped people figure that out. No, you didn't. What did you do? That was the federal government basically helping step in with stimulus checks. What happened? I just think there's so much smoke and mirrors here, and where he needs to focus the economy, because she's absolutely clueless when it comes to that.
And it would have been such a layup, because 2 days after the debate, the administration, not administration, but her people were pointing out, no. She's been in favor of fracking. She's not anti-fracking, because what do we know fracking? Fracking helps you drill, baby, drill. Yeah. And all that answer had to be, inflation? We're worried about inflation. Let's talk about the cost of gas and the cost of heating oil that hit people right in the pocketbook. I am in favor of fracking so that we can have more oil and gas drilled here in the United States and get the price down for the American people. That's not a complicated case study. That's a simple answer. And Adam, to your point, why can't she just say that from something her campaign was answering 2 days prior?
The reason why I show that is because she went to an ABC network. So the agreement is ABC. What do you think is the longest podcast she's going to do?
You think she'll do one?
What do you think is the longest podcast she'll do?
50.
0. I do not think that she'll sit on a long form podcast
at all. No, unless it's like, well, she was on the Breakfast Club. They just laughed and they joke around, and it's absolutely.
When was she on the Breakfast Club?
Oh, she was on the Breakfast Club a while ago.
Okay, but I'm saying, what is she doing now? I think everything's going to be Joe Biden 2.0, hang out in the basement, scripted, edited, zero.
Right, so here's what Stephen A. Smith
zero
said.
Independent podcast, not happening.
We may put the biggest election night event together outside of whatever Kamala and Trump is going to do. We're probably going to put the third biggest one there. You're going to want to be there. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be wild. It's going to be insane. It'll be a lot of fun, creativity, craziness. But here's the thing. To attend it, you're going to have to buy a ticket to go to it, obviously. The tickets are not going to be, vault type of tickets where you're spending, 15, 20, 25K. We're not talking that. It'll be lower amount tickets that we're doing. However, a barrier to enter. When you come in, you have to wear Future Looks Bright gear. We want the room to be filled with people wearing Future Looks Bright gear. So for some of you that want to fly out November 5th, when I tell you what it is and the announcement is finalized, it's going to be crazy. If you don't yet own Future Looks Bright gear, all you have to go get something. Guys, we have a girl, one of Adam's colleagues, posts a video about her wearing this red vitamin hat. And she's walking around. It's like everybody's stopping and says, "You're also Vitamin, you're also Future." I am. It's amazing what's taking place. Vinny, yesterday, if you want, are you comfortable sharing your story? Go ahead.
I had surgery yesterday back at work, because that's how we roll. I had a big cyst removed from my lower back, and I'm in, getting ready pre-op. All the needles are on my arm. I'm ready to go in. A Cuban guy eating a protein bar walks by, stops in his tracks, and goes, "Mira, Vicente Pipiripaca," and then he leaves. He grabs 7 people, Tom. I'm surrounded by 7 people, and all they're talking about is how glad and happy they are that what we're doing, how amazing of a leader Pat is, and what America needs is what's happening right now. People were screaming, "Future Looks Bright" in the back, and then one Haitian lady looks at me and goes, "I want you to tell Adam, thank you for sticking up for the Haitians, because not all of us eat cats." And I go, "But some people do in Springfield." But Pat, the movement, no joke. And I wanted to address this too, Pat. What you're doing, what you've started, what you've built. I can't even go. Besides coffee, I'm nervous because I'm about to go in there and I could die on an operating table. And I had a group of 7 people around me talking about valuetainment and your vision and what valuetainment is doing.
So Vinny, what was that story about? And by the way,
he's like, "Oh, all of us are slackers, huh?"
Look, if you support what we do, which we appreciate. If you believe future looks bright, we want 1 million people worldwide to sport this gear. So go to vtmerch.com, okay? Represent anything. We got so much gear right now. The flip-flops, we had a few more left for some of you guys. I want to pick it up. That's the only flip-flop I wear, by the way, when I walk the dog, just so you know that. My Jesus feet will only go in that flip-flop when I'm walking the dogs at night. So go to vtmerch.com, place your order. There's a bunch of new gear there as well. And if you want to come to that party on November 5th, you got to wear Future Looks Bright. We're going to make videos. It's going to be sick. It's going to be all over the place. Millions of views. It'll be a lot of fun.
They have no idea.
No,
I don't think they know what the heck you're talking about.
I can't tell them yet, but it'll be exciting when it gets finalized.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.